Okay, well, here we are, Street Smart Business. I have the beautiful and lovely Kelly Lippis with me today. And Kelly, what is the exact name of your position?
I am the Executive Director of the Huron County Chamber of Commerce in Norwalk Area Visitors Bureau.
So what does that mean? What does the Director of the Chamber of Commerce do? What's like the job description for that?
Oh geez, for the last 3 years I think that's been the question and the search that I've been on. But the more that I really think about it and get into this position, it's really just the connector, the knower of all things, the person that's a resource that's available. And if I don't know, I try my best to find out. But it's really connecting people, serving the community.
Now you, to get to know Kelly a little bit, we have to go backwards,
yes,
like we always do. So first of all, who is Kelly Lippis?
Oh geez, I think I still try to figure that out every day. I'm a mom. I've been a mom for 16 years, beautiful twin girls, and I think that's my number one utmost position that I love the most. And I think that I'm just multidimensional, trying to figure it out. I love people. I love new things. I love to figure out and kind of work puzzles, and it really is. It's a work in progress every day.
A work in progress.
It is, and that's okay.
Non-stop learning.
That's right.
Well, you came from a medical background before coming to the chamber. So, hey, what did you do? What's your medical background? And then what was it like to transition from? I mean, it's night and day going from the medical field to a civic type position and responsibility. So, what was that like?
Yeah, so I kind of fell into nursing. So I have actually been an LPN for 15 years. I had my girls very young at 18 years old, and kind of at 18, I actually had a full ride to Kent State, and I wanted to go there, and I wanted to do those things, and it ended up not being able to happen because I became a mother. So it's kind of sitting back thinking of what I could do. Somebody presented. They were going to go apply at EHOBE for LPN school, and I was with them, and I was like, hey, I'll go, let me try. Well, I ended up getting in, and they did not. And so I was like, well, here I go. So I had my girls, and at 2 months old, I went to full-time nursing school, and ended up loving it. And it was really more about taking care of people. It was just making people feel good and having that responsibility. I actually, at first, was a little scary, but I actually found very rewarding afterwards because people needed to count on me, and I could produce on that.
Right.
And so that was very selfishly satisfying for me. So throughout my career, I started at a big hospital, and within 6 months working, the graveyard shift, they offered me a position they created to do admissions, and I just all day got to talk to people and welcome them in, and our satisfaction rating went up. So I kind of started learning a lot about the business side of things. Moved a couple different places, and
kids in tow,
always, and just to kind of experience. I wasn't quite ready to settle in this area. I never really saw myself. I grew up in Huron, Ohio, very very small, just like here in Norwalk.
Metropolis.
Yes. And so, kind of fast forward. When I left, I moved to Cincinnati and then Michigan. And then when I left Michigan and came back, I ended up working for a facility here in Norwalk that was family owned, and ended up doing their kind of business development. Didn't really have any background in it or anything other than I was always very curious and always asked a lot of questions, and always was really wanted to know how the money worked. Like, how do you get paid for this?
Right.
How are we taking care of these people? Like, where is this money coming from? And really learning Medicare and Medicaid and all that stuff that's super boring to a lot of people, but I actually loved it. And I got to go to do cool things. I got to go to the fancy dinners and go to all the charity events, and I liked that part of it.
Now, while you were doing business development, were you also still practicing, doing nursing or stuff?
Yeah, so, and actually still to this day I do. So I, especially now during the Rona, I'm still working probably 3 or 4 nights a week, anywhere from 4 to 8 hours a night, just because of the nursing shortage that's around. And people just, kind of need that. And I also feel like that's kind of my duty. When I, cut my nursing license up, things like that, if I can fulfill that, then I need to do that. And so, and that kind of takes care of a different side of me too, to make sure that, that I am, continuing to take care of people and things. That's definitely a huge part of who I am. So kind of fast forward, when I worked in the facility was Gaymont, which everyone pretty much knows. It was owned by the Dotsons, and so they gave me tons and tons of opportunity to be able to kind of do different things, and gave me a lot of autonomy. So within the business development, I was actually able to create like new programs. So I was renovated buildings. I was an apartment manager. I mean, just all these different random things because I asked if I could, because I just wanted to learn how to do it. It wasn't ever necessarily like, hey, you want to do this? I mean, it always turns into that. But initially it was me just really asking the right questions and trying to figure that out, and having, employers that saw that in me, that was like, all right, let's give this girl a chance. Let's see what she can do, because, you grow good people. And I've really taken that, as an employer now myself, taken that and tried to find people that I could grow and build, because that's a great asset to be able to have.
It's kind of our job.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we got who's going to take over for us, and, we want to work with good people, and, we want other people to kind of serve our community. So when I was at Gaymont, Erin Dotson was very involved in the chamber, and I had gone to many chamber functions and everything, and the executive director at the time, Melissa James, who was there for 16 years, resigned. Okay. So Erin comes to me and was like,
"Have I got a plan for you?"
Right. Like, hey, I think you'd be really good for this job. And I'm here like, are you, like, do I need to leave? Like, did I do something wrong? Like, why are you trying to find me another job?
We'll mail you your last check.
Right. Like, have fun. And so that's kind of how that started. Would I have ever applied for a job like that if I didn't have somebody pushing me? I could probably honestly say no. Mm-hmm. I would never have been able to correlate the two to understand, like, how can I take, nursing and healthcare, because if anybody's ever tried to sell healthcare, it's not the easiest thing to do.
Right.
But it was kind of my niche. I was really good at it. But when I really kind of started learning more about the chamber and the ins and outs and what they did, it really is about taking care of people, just in a completely different way. Right. It's making sure that their businesses survive. It's making sure they have proper resources, helping the community build a good workforce to be able to keep the businesses, afloat and, stable and all of that. So it is the same, just a little different.
Now, we've got 5 podcast future worth of information to unpack out of the last 4 or 5 minutes. But there's a couple things that, again, I'm going to try, because we've known each other for years now, and I want to try to pull out the things that I think that have made you a unicorn, different than most. And one is I want to go back to, if you had your beautiful daughters at age 18, you were forced to make a decision. Was it something inside of you that decided that I'm going to have a career, I'm going to stand on my own 2 feet, I'm going to have a successful life and raise, great kids? Because we see statistically, you would be an outlier.
Right.
So what was that like then? I mean, what was it? Was it a feeling, an instinct? Was it somebody from the outside that helped coach you through, or what, I guess, just how did you come to that decision?
I think that I didn't feel like I had a choice otherwise. Not because there was a lot of pressure on me, but I had a wonderful upbringing. Of course, I had some issues, which is a whole nother podcast in itself. That really, truly is. Sorry, Mom, but it is. It's okay, though. But I come from a long line of entrepreneurs. My parents owned a concrete construction company for 22 years. And, my mom was the, VP of it. And she did everything from scheduling the concrete to payroll to all this stuff. And they worked 24 hours a day. My dad was probably one of the hardest workers I've ever met in my life. My grandparent, my grandpa, my uncles have owned restaurants. I mean, one of my first jobs was doing the liquor order for one of the restaurants at like 8 years old. Like, who does that?
Makes total sense.
Right, why not? But I always was around that.
Did you sample to figure out which liquors were best for the establishment?
That was absolutely one of my favorite memories. Actually, was going behind the bar at lunchtime and making my grandpa and his best friend George Shield rum and Cokes.
Oh.
That's what they drank. And so they thought it was cute. And that's what I did. So I've always been pretty good at making.
What's the statute of limitations on that? I wonder, should we buzz that one out of here?
I think 7 years is the max.
Okay.
I'm way past that. But no, I think it was just watching that and also watching them fail. Like knowing, seeing things. And it's just funny that now kind of, especially being in this position and seeing other people's struggles and seeing what they go through, the things that I can remember my mom and dad talking about or my grandpa or my uncles talking about that didn't necessarily make sense, now it does. Like right. How, when you go take loans out, I can just remember these very distinct conversations that it actually helps me make decisions now. Gotcha. And being able to kind of take a risk. So when it comes to, when I made that decision at 18, like, what am I going to do? First of all, make the decision to have my children,
sure.
And then also then make the decision, like, well, what am I going to do? Am I going to go, no offense, but live on, Metro and all this? No. But did I utilize those safety net services while I was going through it? Yeah.
That's what you're meant for.
Oh my gosh. I'll never forget. I was so upset because I was like, Mom, like, I think I'm going to have to do, like, income-based housing. And I we don't do that. And she was like, I've paid enough in taxes, and as long as you don't live on that, you should not feel bad whatsoever for utilizing it. Yep. And I'll never forget, too, when I finally got my first nursing job. I mean, I think I was like $15 or $16 an hour, but that was like huge to me.
Sure.
I was 19 years old. LPN program's a 1-year program, so here I am at 19. And
sure, minimum wage was probably like $5.50.
Right. And so I go to the office like, oh my gosh, I got a job with my first pay stub. And the manager was actually shocked that, like, I went and said, hey, you need to up my rent, or if I don't qualify anymore, what's my move-out date?
Right.
She's like,
no,
your review's not for 6 months. I was like, I know. Things like that, because I didn't feel that it was necessary to continue to use that kind of stuff. Yep. So it wasn't really an option for me. And I wanted to make sure my kids had a good life as best as I could give them. Now, of course, we've had struggles along the way, and we still continue to do, but we don't live in those spaces. Mm-hmm. And what else, I want them to learn that. Right.
And, so, I mean, that comes to a big, we talk about social services and all these programs, and you can be, the hardliner that says, go get a job, or, you got... And again, it's easy when you write your tax bill out every year and you pay it, to have feelings like that. But at the same time, we have these cases like how you did, where it was used exactly by definition how it was supposed to be. It was a temporary solution to a problem, not a permanent lifestyle choice.
Right.
And that's something that's very neat. Now, how do we get? I mean, what's the hardwiring? What's the lesson? That we can put in other young mothers that find themselves in this situation where they opt for the path that you walked? Because your path was not the easiest.
Right.
There was an easier path you could have took. You chose the hard path, but the right path, in my personal opinion. I mean, how come, or what's the difference between your thought process during there and what's typical?
I think a lot of it has to do with how kids are raised and what they are, the experience that they're given. And the participation trophies, all these things that people are just kind of given. I think we actually do everyone a disservice for it. I think that we have to be able to show that it's not this Instagram lifestyle. You have to work for things. You're going to have failure. You're going to have hardships. But the option isn't to stop. And if you did come from a home that necessarily wasn't the best or broken, you have to be able to somehow garner enough strength to be able to stop that, right. To be able to show different, because there is a better way. And I really think that it kind of goes back to mentorship. I've had so many people along the way, especially like when I was at Firelands Hospital. I mean, I had so many people that were like, oh my gosh, Kelly, you could do this. That just kind of saw this, in me. And one of my favorite quotes that I ever saw, or favorite things that were said about me, is terrible. I'm never really the one that likes to talk about myself over here.
Yeah, it never happens. This is the first time ever, and we're going to catch it on audio.
I know. But one of my favorite physicians, his name is Dr. Parnell, He was on the unit that I worked on at Firelands. And when I got my job at the chamber, and it was in the paper, and I think my sister shared it or something, he commented, like, I knew you were destined for great things when I met you. And that, like, felt so good, because he met me at 19 years old, you know, and here I am, I'm 35, you know, so I was, 32 when I took this position. That meant so much to me that he still remembered me. I hadn't worked at Firelands for 10 years, and he still remembered me from that. But it's that grit. It was me being curious. And I think that it was having good people around me and finding those people that this is how you can do it. But I really think that when it comes to the kids, and, you know, if you're a young mother, or if you were dealt a bad, you know, childhood, which it happens, it is about never giving up on that. Never giving up on that you deserve more. Because I think that can be the mindset. I think the mindset is people don't feel like they deserve it. And you do. You deserve it.
The other thing that's kind of annoying to me, and I think problems, you know, is symptomatic of the problem, is that there's not enough sunlight given on the unicorn, you know, the ones that make it. So we're to think that very few do. That, you know, the odds are you can bust your ass, you can do as good as you can, but you're just, the system's set against you. Life is set against you. You know, you're just not going to make it because of who you are. You had young, you know, kids when you were young. You have the wrong skin color. You have the wrong sexual orientation. Whatever it is, there's an excuse that you can't, excuse is the wrong word. There's a reason, a rationale behind why you... An
acceptable reason.
Yes.
That society accepts that.
Yes.
That excuse, I think, is actually a good word. Yep. Because it really is. I think that there is this... It comes down to your mindset. You can sit there and think, okay, well, this portion of the community, of society, I'm okay where I'm at. So I'm not going to focus on the other ones that want to push me to go forward or anything, because I'm okay set over here.
The one thing that's cool about humanity, and it doesn't matter where you were born, where you were raised, or whatever, I honestly believe in all my heart we're born with that desire to have more, to be more, to make a difference, to create a legacy, you know, to provide for the ones we care about. I just think that's, you know, we had a bunch of kittens that were their mom died when we bought a house. So Tracy and the girls raised them with bottles.
No, I would never think that.
Yeah, you know,
I would never think that.
We got old McDonald's cat farm going on here. But anyways, what's funny is those cats never had a mom. They never had any experience outside. But yet you watch them today as adult cats, and they have all the same characteristics and reactions that were never taught to them by another cat, by a dog, by any animal. We didn't get down on the ground and teach them how to leap.
Nope.
So I think all of us are born with this in our DNA, that we're just, there's this goal, there's this drive, there's this vision to be more. And the problem comes in is that society, because we want to dumb down, we want the participation trophy. We want, you know, Timmy showed up, so he won. You know, there's no, all we see is the mean, the average, the vanilla.
Right.
We don't get to see, it's not championed, it's not taught, you know, how to be more than that.
You almost feel guilty sometimes too.
Sure.
To be able, like, kind of earlier when I was like, oh, I don't really like talking about myself, like, I almost feel guilty doing that.
Right.
You know, I think that's a comfort level. And if you really kind of think about, we are born to continue to grow, to continue to kind of exceed those expectations, because that's developmental at its finest. I mean, you're born with a few things that are, you know, autonomic. You're born with your breathing, your circulatory system, those things. A lot of
I know how to eat all the time.
No
problem. It's automatic.
You were at back at you.
Look in the mirror. I can see it.
Hopefully we're still this up, but it's okay. No, I mean, that 100% is. And so where is that breakdown when people, and I do think it comes back to kind of that self-esteem, that encouragement piece of it. And how do we teach, especially the young individuals, that even if you weren't fortifying that as far as like a mentor or, you know, a great dad or a mom or aunt or uncle, because families are not the same as they were 20, 30 years ago. And we need to get over that.
Yep.
People are not raised the right way, but how can we teach them to seek that out themselves and to know that that's okay, you deserve it? I mean, I do think that we are born to naturally evolve and naturally be able to kind of go out and get. And it's okay if not everybody is completely successful at that. But I think it's not okay that everybody doesn't understand that they have that opportunity.
Like in your case, you talked about the doctor that, he spoke your value to you. And maybe it was one of those times where it was somebody outside of your family. It was maybe one of those only times that you ever heard it. But the thing that we try to impart on everybody, at least through the consulting and stuff we do, is that the most important voice you hear is the one that you talk to yourself with. So it doesn't matter what anybody else says about you or what they believe about you. It's what you say to yourself, what you say about yourself, and what you believe about yourself.
Right.
And I think that's the only way. But again, in our current model, we're in a groupthink model. It's where you're supposed to think the same as everybody else. Vanilla's okay. Right. We don't want you, come back down to hey, get back down here. Right. There's no, hey, get up here, ever.
No.
But there's no, hey, get back here, all the time.
Right.
So, we definitely need to teach our kids or at least work with them to, you gotta believe in yourself. You gotta talk to yourself. There's these good examples out there that if this person did it, if this person did it, and look what they grew up in poverty. This person grew up with a silver spoon in the mouth. He failed. She was successful. Anybody can do it.
Right.
Now we're on the Street Smart Business podcast, so you got to do a little justice here and talk a little business. You mentioned that when you went to work at the nursing facility, that you did business development.
Yes.
So what does business development look like in that environment?
So primarily, if you look at how a facility is fed as far as financially, you need beds. You need people to fill beds.
Understand.
But even more than that, you need people to fill beds with different payers. Now, I can get really boring, and I'm going to try not to. But
we'll delete it out.
That's fine. Yeah, edit that part out. That's fine. But it depends on the type of the people that you get to put the beds, their insurances, because that's another podcast, insurance.
Sure.
But kind of having that nice mix, but more importantly, it's developing those relationships with the hospitals, with the different organizations, with the community members, so that not only do they know that you are a safe place and that you are going to take care of them if it's rehab or living long-term or anything, but that you are also, a stand-up business in the community. That's one thing that I learned very quick about Norwalk is, and Huron County in general, just our area, is that if you are not connected to the community, nobody knows about you. You're not as trusted as someone else.
Sure.
You don't even have to be necessarily connected to the community for what your business necessarily does. So I might go to the Rotaries and to the Kiwanis and all that stuff. That doesn't necessarily mean that's my population of people I'm pulling from. But I might have an aunt of, you know what I mean? A niece of an aunt that needs to be placed.
You're planting seeds.
100%. I still get called to this day from people that I've taken care of or placed their loved ones before. They know I'm not even in that role anymore, but they still call and ask for my advice. Not because I was, oh my gosh, so amazing, but because I made myself trusted.
So what's the business, right here, you just nailed on. This is a gold nugget everybody should be writing down that's listening. So what's the business lesson that you just said right there? Why did somebody call you when you're not in a position that could even help them? Why was that phone call made to you?
Because they knew that I would not leave them without an answer. They knew that I would talk with them, I would talk through anything with them, and I would leave them with a resource going forward. I really do. I think it's that trust piece of it. And I've worked very hard to keep that about myself. I think that goes back to integrity. Have I screwed up sometimes? Absolutely. But it's that being that trusted resource for people. And I think it does. It comes down to people knowing that they can count on you, they can rely on you. And even if you give them that answer that they don't want to hear, they're not even upset with you about it.
Right.
And so by me being able to create those relationships in the community. Now, granted, I have to give, my ex-bosses some credit because they did a very good job at that themselves.
Sure.
But by creating those, we were able to fill beds. We were able to expand services. We were able to do all of those things because of our position that I really tried my hardest to get in the community.
So sales lesson number one that you just, again, we could unpack this piece for like an hour. Is the people that you were interacting with had 100% belief that you were putting their interest before your own.
100%.
So that already tells me that, there's a level of trust that's been created.
Right.
So we're in a society today where customer service sucks. I mean, even in our little county and our cities, customer service sucks. Mm-hmm. So when you go out and you half-ass it, you're actually a rock star. Oh my gosh, the service here is just awesome.
Yes.
I mean, it took them a week to call me, it took 2 weeks to deliver, but hey, that was better than the month I got over here. So sales lesson number one, man, the client has to know that in all cases that you're putting their best interests, their needs, their wants, and their desires before your own.
And making yourself available to them. There isn't anybody that I won't give my cell phone number to. And I'll even say to them, hey, if I don't answer...
That doesn't mean you don't block them, eventually.
Right, or I might send it a voicemail here or there if I tried my hardest with you and I need to breathe for a minute. But, it's making sure that they're available. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, you text me at, 9:30 at night because you're, in a crisis you don't want to talk to. I might not even be able to solve your solution. But that's okay. You needed somebody to talk through. And I'm happy to be that person for you.
Yep. And then lesson number two.
I feel honored. Yeah.
You took the complex... You just talked about all the insurances, all the government-based, whatever you want to call it, plans to help pay for your care. You made all of that, and you took it from super complicated to super simple so they could understand it.
Well, and I think also if we just look at healthcare and the information piece of it, I think that now more than ever, it is so hard to decipher what is true and what is right. And you always feel like you're being sold to. And you always feel like you're not getting the full story. So before I would ever even accept somebody to come into a facility, I needed to talk to whoever was in charge of that person's finances, because you needed to know what you could expect as far as a bill comes. Because nobody likes those pop-up things. Healthcare is not cheap. So... it's actually funny. When I was in that role, I talked to my phone so much, and my phone still is a source of anxiety for me.
I understand.
It is. I talked on the phone so much. My girls knew they could explain to you what the Medicare benefit was, what the skill, how much it paid for.
They heard you say it so many times.
And it was actually like this. It was funny. Like, it was like this mocking. Like, I would be on the phone in the car with somebody, and they'd be in the background. Like, shut up. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they'd be like,
do you have an echo in the car?
Right. And I'm like, geez, they would actually, because no, you cannot ever say, and that's actually come back to be very helpful, especially when you had somebody, down the line, well, I didn't know. I gave the same speech, and I very much so know I did tell you that, because I would never have said, hey, and got your paperwork ready and brought you in if we didn't have that conversation, because that's important to me. Yep. That was very, very important. It was very important to the brand of the facility I worked at.
Yep. And the other thing, I guess, business lesson number 3 of unpacking this is that the more complicated your product or service is, the more, if you want to sell without selling, is people want to have a contact. So much of what we're doing now is to create digital answers and automatic answers and FAQs and all this other stuff. The higher ticket your item is, the more complicated it is, you have to have a contact. And by giving out your cell, not having to even go through the switchboard at the facility to get to you, that just does nothing but build credibility and trust.
Right, on both ends, because not only are you dealing with the family members that are calling, you're dealing with hospitals that have a plethora of places they can pick from to place somebody.
Right.
And I needed to make sure that they knew that they could call me and then also trust my answer. If I said that, hey, no, they are not, we aren't going to be able to best suit their needs and care for them the way they need. I know it's a Sunday afternoon and you need them out. You've had a discharge order in there for, 24 hours, but I'm just letting, they're not right. But hey, I know here's so-and-so and so-and-so. I feel like they'd fit over there. Why don't you refer them there?
Oh, understand.
Trying to kind of lay that off, because a lot of times we were the first call from the ER because we were the path of least resistance.
Understand.
So that gave us credibility in the healthcare system. That actually helped me personally down the road. It gave us credibility there, and it was very helpful, and it was a seamless transition. I mean, not only do you, when you're working with people and you're taking somebody that has had a fragile medical event, so they're already upset, they're already anxious, they've had any sort of surgery or anything, so they're already at the lowest point, and now you're telling them they can't go home.
Yeah.
So now you're
Person of the Year award.
Right.
Yeah.
Hey guys, come to the nursing home. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you.
We got bingo on Sundays. You know what I mean? You'll have fun. So you're getting at this point. So you have to have not only that trust, but that compassion and understanding, and just be like, this sucks.
Right.
I 100% understand. It sucks. Nobody wants to go through this. You never thought you'd be making the decision right now, but we're here.
Right.
So this is what you can do, and just know you can always change your mind.
Yeah.
You can come here if you want for the weekend. If you don't like it, that's okay.
Right.
We'll help get you out.
You can walk your way out of here.
No problem. Here's paper. Sign them. Go for it. Even though it's worked, 12 hours to get you here, but it's okay. I'm just kidding. But no, that's kind of what it is. And having, like you said, it's a relationship building.
And then the last part of this thing that we'll talk about right now is I think the other secret sauce that you have and why you were successful in that position would be number 4, is you didn't hide the bad news. If we want to stick with selling without selling, where we make it where there's no obstacles to the transaction, is you didn't hide what the negatives were, the cons were, the cost, the process that they had to go through to get it.
Get the shock out of it.
Yeah, you took care of that. When a lot of businesses, they know that there's something, either their price is a little higher than maybe their competitor is, or the system or the process to get them to sold is complicated.
Right.
They try to hide it. And then that gives that more power. It makes it even more, every time that we hide the price, the longer we hide it, the cost, the bigger it is in the client's mind. So all of a sudden they see this little teeny bit of value for this big, huge cost. If we nuke that and negate that out of the gate as much as possible, now we have this big chunk of value, and now we've dealt with that price and we've brought the size of the price down.
And I think you do that. And I see that a lot, referring people and things like that too. You'll talk to anybody about it.
Absolutely.
Even if you know off rip that they aren't necessarily going to be right.
Yep.
And not necessarily, hey, let's go grab lunch, let's do anything, because
Yep.
I really believe, and I work hard at this, is that you're only as good as your referral. I mean, really, if you bring somebody in you can't work, and then you refer them on to somebody, or you give them, but now you're a source of resource for them. You're a source of education, and they're going to call you for anything. And now you are able to network and say, okay, you really don't need me. Or they called you for a gun. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Nothing to do with what you got to do.
Who's got hired to put a roof on my house?
Right.
I don't do roofs.
Right, but they trust your opinion on it because they've trusted you. And so, if we switch it to the chamber world, that really is what I do, for the people that take advantage of that, is that really what it is that people do call, and it's because they feel that I'm not going to put, steer them wrong.
Right.
And if I do, I'll be honest about it. Like, oh man, I'm sorry, I never heard that, but I will make sure I note that. I never heard that before. But,
Thanks for being the guinea pig for us.
Yeah, appreciate that.
We'll eliminate that.
Yeah.
Well, you bring up the chamber, and, we've entered since, March of 2020 when, our esteemed MD governor, our, highly qualified medical professional that runs our state.
I should have brought that.
Our governor's an idiot sign. No disrespect intended. Okay. Editorial comments aside. Yes. No, what happened is you're in the community, probably one of the biggest civic organizations in our county. And yet all civic organizations, all clubs, all churches, all boards, all committees are now struggling mightily to get participation, to make to get anything accomplished.
Right.
What has that been like for you at the chamber?
I think that this has probably been one of the most challenging things I've ever encountered. Because this isn't my normal instinct. Even though I do feel like I'm business-minded, I won't take that away from myself. I do feel like I just have those natural instincts of how to do things. But man, what a year to be kind of almost a newbie in this stuff. Because people are kind of looking for a line item. Nobody's getting the same information. So I really try to be that. One thing, and I'll just kind of say this out loud, that I don't necessarily like about my position is that I can't necessarily always speak what I want to speak because I represent an organization.
Right.
And that to me sometimes makes me feel super unauthentic, and I don't like that. I don't.
Yep.
But at the same time, I wouldn't be doing my service if I didn't think of everyone as a whole.
Sure.
So that has been extremely difficult for me, and probably the most challenging thing I've done in any professional career I've had because that sucks.
Oh,
really
sure,
bad,
sure.
really, really bad. So I think it really goes back to, and even the chamber, we've kind of been in this renaissance for 3 years. They were, even before I came into play, things are changing. And I think that these organizations that instantly were like, oh crap, like what are we going to do? What you're going to do is start thinking for now, but also 5 years.
Sure.
The way people are going to gather, the way people are going to do things, and what people feel are going to be important are going to be totally different. And our job, if anybody that's, a leader or a business owner, is to think forward for that. But how do you think so forward for that when every day something's changing?
Right.
So I think it comes back down to information and education of what you do and getting those people that are the supporters and to know and really finding the niche. So like as a chamber's concerned, I really kind of find ourselves more, as we've gone through this, as kind of just that puzzle, that connecting piece of it. Every, business and person and organization is a piece of your community puzzle. And the chamber really is best suited to put that puzzle together.
Right.
Doesn't mean we run everything or need a seat at every single table. We just need people to know, like, if you can run it through us, we can help kind of bridge those together. So what I say to these community organizations is that you don't want the Lions Club and Kiwanis Clubs and Rotaries to go away. Those are your standard,
sure.
And even the JCs, which is your younger crowd. The best thing that they can all do is educate people of what they do. What is their piece? How are they bringing anything to the community? What do you do? Because I think everyone has always just been so comfortable. You've just had your normal people that have supported it. You've had your, multi-generation businesses that is going to send that membership check in.
Right.
They've done it forever. No, you cannot think like that.
Right.
You have to be able to explain what you're doing, how you're going to do it, and how are you fitting into the community? Because people are a lot more community minded now, as they should be. But don't sell them. Make them feel the reason why they need to be involved in these things and why you're important. The Lions Club is more than just the 4th of July parade.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right,
I'm pretty sure not everybody even knew it was a Lions Club until this year, until they had to cancel it.
Right.
But they just thought that just happened. Okay, well, they do eyeglasses. Do you guys know that all these things, and explain that to people. You're not going to get anywhere. You're not going to grow anywhere unless people know what you do. And I struggle with that every single day too, because it's constantly changing.
Well, the one thing that seems to apparent is that, there's a lot of multi-generational businesses, again, small, large, whatever, that haven't really changed, adapted.
Right.
And, so they're still, again, trying to do things the way they did in 1984, like it's 1984.
Right.
And I think our civic organizations, because most of them are 100% volunteer driven.
Right.
So as life has gotten more chaotic, more busy, all these, look, there's a kitten, everything, there's a distraction everywhere, that we've seen them try to get by on past laurels. And they're not being ran as a business. It's trying to go out. Again, there's a crowded, noisy space out there. Lots of noise. And all of a sudden the Lions, for example, JC's one of them, had to say, okay, hey, come see us, give us money, donate to us. But
Why?
there's 80,000 other people that are all have their hand out or wanting the same time commitment that those organizations do. There's going to have to be a change.
There is. And there's some hard truths out there. It's, I'll never forget when I first started the chamber, we started to take things a lot more digital. We have less staff now than we did, but I had Tony, who was around the previous podcast. Wonderful. I miss him so much. But, we were able to really kind of get more in front of people. Well, it's equally the amount of people that I had love that. I had people that are like, so I have to go on Facebook to be able to find you?
Yep.
If you're not on Facebook, even Erin Brown, you are now, but I've said this to you how many times,
right.
Even if you don't necessarily believe it, you have to. Mm-hmm. And I think people know that's more prevalent now than ever, because like us as the human beings, we are good. We talked earlier about how we don't, how do we get people to understand they can grow and they can keep going. You've seen a lot of that this year with people figuring out, okay, e-commerce. Mm-hmm. How can, we want to keep this business going, and I can't have my brick and mortar because 2 employees had the Rona, so I had to close my doors for 2 weeks, or I wasn't essential, which, by the way, everybody is essential.
And you are a hero. by the way.
Why? Shut up. Shut up. I was like, why? Anyway, God. But no, people have pivoted, and and I've kind of said from the beginning, you have to move with informed caution and flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
You should really do that all the time.
Yep.
You really should.
It's a business strategy.
You really should. You should be able to pivot, and you should be able to pick up, and you should be able to do. But one thing is that you need to figure out what your core value is and go with that. Marketing is a whole nother thing. I get really passionate about the whole marketing piece of things because you should be involved in these civic organizations and the United Funds and the Reach Our Youth and all these community-based things. But you shouldn't just as a business start dealing out $250 checks to everybody. No, you need to pick the ones that align to who you are.
Right.
Because you're doing every single one of those a disservice. Mm-hmm. If you picked 5 of them to give, more than $250 to, but you can speak more educated about them and more passionate about them, you're doing so much of a better for not only your business, but for the community as a whole.
Right.
I mean, it's really kind of, I think, more prevalent than ever that we have to support our community to be there, but then again, our community has to come back and support us. And the only way it's going to do is if we both go at it.
So what's going to be going forward? You look at the next 12, 18, 24 months here. We're going to enter a whole different world for business owners.
I think that it is, I don't want to necessarily say this completely wrong. I feel like we've gotten a little comfortable. I mean, even at the chamber. So we weren't initially qualified for PPP funding. Well, guess what? Now we do. Okay? That's going to give me a little bit of a cushion. But I cannot stop being hungry about making sure that our finances are okay.
Sure.
And making sure these things. I think that people are seeing more money now than ever. Well, that's going to have to be paid back. I don't care that they're saying that this is forgiven. I don't care anything. You're paying for that eventually.
Sooner or later it's coming back.
It's going to come back around, and you're going to have to pay for that. So don't be comfortable and don't be you have to still be lean, but make the most impact that you can. And there isn't anything wrong in looking at what your overhead is. So how many businesses really could go remote and lose all of that overhead? And that's okay to say that, But then also with being able to say that from like the chamber and working with the city and the county so much, we also have to be prepared for empty professional offices on Main Street.
Absolutely.
We have to be prepared for that stuff, and we have to do different things to entice people to come down in, and and so it's everybody being uncomfortable and being okay with that, but making the best decision you can at the moment and being okay with that. But don't get comfortable. We are not okay. We are not out of this. We will see the ramifications from all of these bailouts, all of this for years to come, just like we did back in 2008. It's just different now. People are scared, and there's a lot more of the health factor that goes into it, which is a whole other podcast. But I think that still have to proceed with caution and flexibility. Do not be comfortable. Understand eventually something's going to have to be paid back. It is. And making sure that you are running your business as lean and as efficient as you can.
Yep. Okay, well, we'll get back to the chamber. So you interact with small businesses constantly.
Yeah.
Nonstop. So what today, when you talk to somebody, what is the number one issue? What are the hot button items that they're concerned about, they're scared about, they need?
I think that what the worst thing people are looking for right now is workforce. How are we getting people here? I think that has been the standard even pre-coronavirus. I think people are scared and they're worried about how they're getting traffic to the doors. Right. And that is definitely very scary for them. And I also think they're very scared about what's coming, even though they don't have to repay anything right now, when are they going to have to repay for it?
Sure.
And what can I help them to prepare for that? Nobody knows.
Right.
Nobody knows. And so I think that those are some of the biggest. And when are these mandates going to be lifted? There's a whole gamut of things. When can I go back to full capacity?
Sure.
And if I can't, how can you guys help us be able to get people in the door? How can we get more traffic here? I mean, really. I think a lot of your stable businesses, like your insurance and your IT, all of these things, those have not really necessarily been super affected because you need to have insurance. You need to have these certain things. Right. I do feel like we might see a little bit of a downtick in some of those just because people, businesses that might not have stayed. So if your commercial business insurance might be going down, those sort of things. But I think it's mostly people nervous about tomorrow. There's a new president. Are we going to be closed for 3 weeks? That's kind of been in the news. People are just very anxious. They don't know, and they don't know if they're going to be able to survive it. And I understand that.
Right.
I understand that. And we don't have an answer for them.
So what is something that they could do? I mean, in your mind, if you're one of these businesses that has been, and I'm going to say unconstitutionally shut down, or minimized, or somebody else is making the determination about the long-term success or failure of your business.
Right, if you're essential and non-essential.
What's something they can be doing right now? Because it ain't looking good for the future right now.
No. How can you keep your relationship with your clients but be remote and online based? Mm-hmm. I think that's huge. I think that making sure that you are having those solid relationships to whatever your clientele is. If you're retail, if you're, business professional, whatever industry you're in, keeping those relationships going and being able to quickly pivot to an online. So you look at a restaurant. How can, if you're a restaurant right now and so, okay, you guys can be open at, what is it, 50% capacity? I should know off the top of my head, but it's around that. 50% capacity, but you can't be, till 10, but you can do to-go drinks. How can you get out in front of them if you are closed? So do you offer family meals? Do you go down to a simplified menu but blast the shit out of it?
Right.
To be able to people to come and know? Do you partner? And I think a lot of it's partnering with others. So even though you're a bar or a restaurant, and of course you want people there, but do you do a promotion? So I'll just say hometown. So hometown, are you going to do a promotion with Freight House and say, hey, whatever it may be, it's thinking outside the box. What's going to keep you going? And I think that people have finally gotten that. And honestly, if people haven't, if these businesses have not figured out that you have to be able to pivot at a moment's notice, but be prepared for that, there's going to be some casualties. We don't want that to happen, period. But it's like only strong survive. I mean, some of the, one of the businesses that closed in Huron County, they were going to close anyway. Like, personally, they wanted to close anyway. This was just kind of the reason, hey, I'm going to do it.
The time is right.
The time is right now. The Rona's here, so we're going to close. So, yeah, I think it's just being able to just continue to adapt. Don't get comfortable. And don't ever get comfortable. I mean, anybody can come in and steal your thunder and take it no matter what. But try to be self-sufficient. Try to be as lean as possible. Like, really, you have to be able. Like, we've cut all of our expenses at the chamber.
Sure.
I mean, we are, because we don't have any room for error.
Right.
We have absolutely not one room for error. And I will not be the girl that closes the chamber that's been there since 1908. I will not be the one to do it. Period.
Yeah, that involves a different zip code at some point in your life.
I'm out. I like palm trees anyway. I'm out. Didn't you say you have a friend with a
yeah. We'll make sure you have
for sure.
a VRBO to go to.
Yeah, for sure. But no, I mean, I do. I think that it's adjusting, it's adapting, it's overcoming. It's making sure, and you might not have been your employee, you might have been an operator and not, and not actually worked it. Get in there and work. Yep. Make sure find your right people. Make sure that your people are on top of everything. It's crazy. It's not over though. It's especially as of today, it is not over. We are in this.
Well, the thing that I think scares me for business in general, and our family owns several, is that we're going to go into what could be a higher tax environment at all levels. Could be more regulation, more restrictions, more things, edicts from on high come down to us. Mm-hmm. That some businesses in some sectors have been already, put at a deficit because of how they were handled the last 9-10 months. And then all of a sudden they're going to come out of that. Well, no, we're going to attempt to come out of that. And then all of a sudden all this new stuff comes on. So there's going to have to be, the most valuable part of any business is your clients. Mm-hmm. And the thing that I've been trying to tell everybody that I think is critical right now is several things. One is, we found out that depending on what you believe in life, you could be eliminated from social media. So if your business is built strictly around Facebook or one of those, and you believe a certain way, all of a sudden your entire business could be harmed because you're not allowed to communicate, or you get suspended, or you get kicked off, or whatever.
And I think it's a great topic, actually, because, I think that everybody has the right for freedom. I do not agree with, I personally do not agree with censoring anybody. I think that if you say that, and you say it out loud, and you are going to defend what you said, then say it. We have a choice to believe and go along with what you say. Period, point blank, is what it is. And if the powers to be don't feel like we are capable of that, well, why don't you fund our public school system better and get, there's, that's a whole nother thing. I mean, there's ways to do that.
See, our job was to solve all the world's problems today.
I'm down for it. I'm ready. I'm ready. But no, I think that if you are going to go out on social media, which is, that has blown up even more than ever has.
Sure.
And say things that are one way or another, you have to be okay with losing clients.
Sure.
Controversy isn't always bad. It 100% isn't always bad. Sure. But I will say, though, if you are in a public position for a business, if you on your business page, I personally feel it should be more of a neutral, unless you're perfectly fine with that. Because you will be attacked in every different direction, and it's out there. But nobody should ever be censored. But you have to be okay with the choice of somebody to continue to do business with you or not.
The good thing, too, is I think it's important to go back when I'm going to call this old school, and it's really not old school, but it's only been a couple years, but it's already old school, is you truly need to have landline phone numbers for people that do have them. It's very few now. Landline numbers in your CRM, your customer resource management software. You need to have cell phone numbers. You need to have their email address.
Yeah.
So if you get limited on communication, there's always a way that you can contact your most valuable asset, your client. And one thing that we're finding is, again, in social media, we're getting to the point, again, where everybody's standing there jumping up and down at the same time, asking for money, asking for you to do business with them. Where all of a sudden, maybe a direct mail piece now has some potential.
We talked about that, 6 months ago?
Yep.
How the bulk mail and the direct mail is, kind of fallen by the wayside. But no, people are tired of emails. People are tired of the constant rate of messages in your inbox or a text message. No, send me something that I can look at my leisure and make a choice. Because I feel like everybody's been forced to do so much. That's not our nature. Our human nature is not to be forced to do anything, and we've been forced, and it's unnatural. It's wrong, and it's unnatural, and it's not who we are. It's not who we are supposed to be, and it's not how business is supposed to be, period. We should not be forced. It's all a choice.
Well, some of us are old and grumpy enough now that we just automatically just like, no.
Right. We're not doing it that way.
Automatically the answer is no.
No, it's not happening.
So I think what's looking successful in some campaigns that we've been part of now is where some marketing or some communication during this entire process that is multi-platform, that isn't just relying strictly on social, isn't strictly relying just on, a letter.
I'm not going on another Zoom meeting. I'm just telling you, I'm so over the damn Zoom meetings, I can't even explain it.
Well, as long as you have your pants on, they're okay.
Well, no, and actually I found, it's funny story. I realized, so at the very beginning, everybody on Zoom had their pictures on there. Everybody. And that was causing problems, like bandwidth, things like that.
Yep.
Now, it's totally cool not to have your picture showing, so really, we have no, we don't need to get up and get dressed in the morning, period, because you can literally just have the blank
screen. So why not just have a conference call then?
Yeah. Why do we even need to do that? You know what I mean? Because I could be doing something else on my computer while I'm sitting here listening. Stop. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, it's nothing better than, you get asked to speak to a group of people on a Zoom meeting and you're doing your best and you see somebody doing their taxes in one frame and the other one's doing their makeup in the
Yelling
other.
at my kid over here.
Yeah. You watch the dog run across the thing and you're just well, I don't think anybody's getting my message.
Oh, no. But, when you're... Everybody's being sold to. I think the one thing, and I think you do it best, is education. It goes back to trust. If you can educate somebody and you can gain their trust and you can gain that, you are going to end up with that business. And if not theirs, they're going to talk to somebody. about you. Might not be directly right now that you're going to get it. But yeah, it's educating people. It's making them understand that they have a choice.
Right.
I will be the first. You have a choice to pay your chamber membership. You 100%. But I'll just let you know too. If you don't pay, that's okay. You can still call. You can still call. You can still do. What? We'll still be here for you. There's just certain things you can't. Because we're a membership-based organization.
Right.
But you have a choice, and I think that people appreciate being reminded that you have a choice because we're forced into everything.
Right. Now, for people who don't know, again, been around the chamber for how many years now? Again, as the gray hairs keep coming up, it seems like it's
I have
longer.
them now too. I actually wanted to reschedule this until after February 11th, but I didn't.
We could always filter it to black and white. That way nobody would know. How does a chamber of commerce work? I mean, how does ours work to start with? I mean, do you make all the decisions? Is there volunteers? Is there boards? How does that all work?
So I think that everyone does it a little different. There is a board, so we have a board of 20, which we actually just backed it down because just like a lot of other organizations, and I'll be the first to admit it, we have trouble with engagement on that piece of from a board level. So you have a board of directors. So I run the day-to-day operations. So I tend to always be a little ballsy. I will make decisions, but I always kind of, if I feel like it's a decision I need to take the board, absolutely. But if I feel like I can defend my decision, I'm making it. Right. If I feel like I can go in front of you, I made it because of this, and this is my rationale behind it. And if you didn't like it, and then you fired me, I'm still going to feel okay because I made that decision.
Right.
I could defend it. So it's as the director of it, I really am just directing it. I am feeding the board the information to make the correct decision for the organization, for the membership and community as a whole. We have turned into, this year in particularly, we have worked a lot with the city of Norwalk because they are in the same boat as we are there. And I do feel like that is a great place for us to be. It's creating the culture of the community that the majority of our businesses are in. And how can we work with them to help mediate some situations, to help make sure that the city is on the right, in my opinion, the right path of creating the zoning laws. Things that people don't ever think about or necessarily need to think about. Right. But how can we get more retail on Main Street? Well, it's the really boring meetings that you have to go through, and I want to be a part of those because I feel that's super important for the community that we're building. Because if businesses can't rely on other businesses, you have to be, everybody has to feed off of each other.
Right.
And so, but no, we're board driven. Now, not only are we the chamber, we have a total separate company, which is the Norwalk Area Visitors Bureau, that actually really, they work hand in hand for each other. Mm-hmm. I will say that the Visitors Bureau is a lot more event based, so that brings a lot of the downtown events and the Big Light Up Norwalks, which has equally been as difficult to pivot and to kind of guide. But I do feel very proud about a lot of those things that we put out this past year, being able to kind of manipulate and pivot how we do things and still provide things for the community. But those are board. I mean, everything is based on a board, and the board are made up of an organization of of a certain amount of board members per industry that we serve.
Oh, got you. Understand.
So it's kind of across the board to be able to make the decisions.
Mm-hmm.
But just about everybody else, there's struggles in that in itself and making sure.
So the board always gets along. We all have the same opinion. There's never any politics or anything involved or anything.
Oh yeah, always. I think that if that did happen, we're doing everything wrong. 100%. I think that's anywhere. Now, do I necessarily like that? That, there's some controversy and things like that sometimes? No, but if you really think about it, not just because then my life's a little harder, but it's okay. But that's how it's supposed to be. Nothing great came along with everybody getting along and everybody going the same direction. You have to be able to have some people that really think it. The people that sit on our board, they're the ones that are really the change makers. Majority of them end up falling into those positions or being asked to serve on a board because they are, somebody that's going to make a difference, that is a little outspoken, that that really
Right.
is passionate about what they do, because how are we ever going to grow or get better or have a better community or business environment if we didn't have a little competitiveness, you know?
So what does the chamber need from the community right now? If you had an ask right now, what would it be?
Trust. I think that sometimes, trust and involvement. It's very difficult, I find, and this could just be personal. I do think that there are some directors across the country that do this very well, but explaining those little things that we do that aren't necessarily seen in the community, and understanding that we are trying our best to make sure that we have all of our business still stand in the end, and everybody comes out better, and we have more, and we're creating a business environment that people want to move their companies here. We're making sure that we have site certified land for new factories to come in, and we're handling employee culture to make sure that our companies understand what motivates employees of today. You know, all of these things that aren't necessarily, we aren't able to say all the time because of privacy, or in fact, it's kind of boring to some people. But then also involvement. Get in, understand. Be somebody that wants to help somebody else. Be a part of the community. Shop local, please. And I know we say that all the time. That can never go away.
Right.
It can never go away. If you're going to go get Allstate insurance, find your local Allstate rep to give you that insurance.
Right.
Don't just go online to get the Progressive. But again, if it's twofold, our businesses have to be out there and available to catch those clients. So that's who we are. We need to not only educate the community on how to get a hold of our businesses, but our businesses need to understand they need to be flexible and out there for them.
So anybody, whether they're a business owner or not, a citizen of Norwalk, a citizen of Huron County, if they want to know about the chamber, if they want to ask hard questions, they're not sure, they're available they can call anytime, stop in anytime when the office is open.
Yeah.
And find out why, get all the questions answered so they have, they're willing to support it all the time.
And even if they don't like the answers, that's okay. You know what I mean? I think that's probably the time that I really find out what we're missing, is when I find out, what people like, but more importantly, what they don't like about something. Because people are more apt to tell you what they don't like, and then it's my job to decipher that, to figure out, is that just something that we're not going to be able to fix for this individual, or is that a whole piece that we're missing that could benefit all of our businesses?
Right.
Because if we have a healthy business community, and we have a healthy community, everybody is happy.
Right. Now, what would make, we talked about, we just had to par down the board of directors, the count, just because, again, it's hard to get enough people in one spot at one time these days,
right,
even with Zoom.
Yes.
I don't know how, okay, whatever. So what makes, if you're going to be on a board of the chamber or any of these civic organizations, what makes who should apply for that? Who should check in? Who do you want to be on that board? No matter what organization you're in.
Honestly, I kind of look back to how I was at 19 years old. I wasn't anybody that anybody thought would have done anything. But I was inquisitive. I wanted to know. I want to work with people like that. I want to work with the people that are up and coming, but we need a good mix. We need the business owners that have been here through the generations to keep those traditions here, because there's value and validity in that. But then also the ones that are coming up that very much so want to make a difference and also want to succeed, still have that grit and that ambition for it. That's what we need. And how are you thinking different? How are you doing your business different? Anybody that is thinking for themselves, that has a general want to serve your community, serve your community and your business community, that's who we want. So it doesn't always have to be that business owner. It doesn't. It could be somebody under the business that could potentially want to sit in that seat.
So somebody that works for a company in town, a key employee, somebody, even rank and file that wants to represent that business in that position, as long as they're coming to it with the work gloves on, the work clothes on, they're welcome.
100%. Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. Because it takes everyone. It takes every demographic, everything for us to be able to prosper.
It seems like in our area especially that and again, I was on the chamber board for a bit, And there were times where it was both frustrating and rewarding. It just seems like a lot of times people get on there because they think it looks good for their business that, chamber.
It is a great resume builder.
Chamber board of director. But if you show up and you just vote, hey.
Do you even know what you're voting for?
Yeah, and you don't actually, make an impact of some kind. That always makes me question your motives and stuff anyways. What is, again, we have a lot of new businesses, I think, that are going to be sprouted out of these times. If you're a new business, what can the chamber do for you?
The connection.
Or you have an idea for a new business.
Yeah. So we work really well with Huron County Economic Development. So if you have this business idea, call me. I love to talk through that kind of stuff. And I have people like yourself that if I feel like you need to talk a little bit more or you have some more questions, it's connecting to those people that want to talk through this with you and making sure that you have kind of crossed your T's and dotted all of your I's and where is this coming from. And then Huron County Economic Development will come in for new businesses to help you with that business plan, to help you, is there funding out here? Is there anything? Because, we're in the world of funding right now.
Oh, sure.
Is there something, a grant out there that you can grab? And then you come to me, and I always look at the chamber as we help businesses be successful and significant. How can we continue to help you grow, be significant within this community? Because that's your largest pool of customers. Be significant, but then also be sustainable. So, is it, are you, oh gosh, I have $1,000 a month rent. I can handle this. Well, let's talk about that. Do you need to? Could you go here? Oh my gosh, you would pair really well. So it is kind of hard sometimes to discuss exactly how, if you're a brand new business, how we can help you because everybody is different. We don't know that until we can talk to you. But a lot of times it's just saying, hey, let's, especially if you're having issues with your business. Everything's confidential unless you let me tell somebody.
Right.
I will always ask your permission. But I've called you in a couple times.
Sure.
Like, hey, it has nothing to do with your business, Erin Brown, but you're really good at it. Can you come over here and talk to so-and-so? We've, helped people. We've talked them out of business before. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that either.
Right.
But they've walked away knowing that we were
there for them, 100%.
No matter what. We had no gain in that whatsoever other than helping you through that.
And I think that's kind of have to be going forward, especially when I don't think anybody can truly foresee or wrap their head around what the economics of business are going to look like. Yeah. After noon today, with the executive orders aplenty coming, we have no idea how that's going to affect us, back at the small business level. So I think, to see the chamber flourish long term, we're going to have to see more of that.
Yeah.
I have a feeling. I think the chamber is going to be in a transition piece where it goes from kind of the big picture, 30,000 foot, directing things from afar, to actually putting people in a room together, actual businesses that are dealing with real life problems, real life economies, real life employee issues, and working together to solve them.
Right. Because
there's a big leech on our system right now above us. We know that. And the only way for us to survive is to not be segmented, which is, I feel like it's on purpose and desired, but it's to work together, collaborate. I think the secret weapon going forward, and I think you're sitting in the perfect seat to do it, is collaboration. The more that we can leverage, there's a book out by Strategic Coach, Dan Sullivan's his name. He's actually a former Norwalk native.
What?
Yeah, he went to St. Paul High School back in the 70s.
Oh, maybe we can get him as a speaker. We can pull that. Hey,
I don't think he's coming back.
I don't know. I have a way with words sometimes. We'll see.
But he just wrote a new book that's out. I think everybody should get it. It's called Who Not How.
Okay.
So it's all about that, leveraging other people's strengths and to where you're spending all your time using your strengths. So all of a sudden we start putting collaborations together where we have each business bringing their strength to whatever the offering is, whether it's a product or a service, or even something that's charitable or for the community. But you're bringing all those strengths together, and everybody's only doing what they're good at and what they enjoy and what fulfills them, and it has an exponential greater value, and it leads to scale, which we're going to have to do. I guarantee one thing: no matter what your business is, your margins are going down. So scale is going to be the only way that you maintain or increase your business performance going forward. And I think the only way you can do that is going to be, I think if we try to do it internally on our own, we're going to struggle and it's going to delay, success. But if we can collaborate, find those trusted relationships that we can leverage each other's talents, I think scale could happen relatively quickly.
Right. No, I think that you're 100% right on that. It is. It's leaning on each other. It's learning from each other, and it's the collaboration piece of it, which you can't get from anyone else. I mean, you can't get. You have to have a centralized location for that, and I think you're completely right about the chamber being that source of it.
So you've had a pretty. You've probably had about 60 years of life rammed into what you've done so far, and we know you're not 60.
Right.
You've had lots of experiences, some good, some bad. What's been if you could have a solid piece of advice that you would consider, I've tried and true this thing 100 times, and I know it's the truth. What would that be? I mean, what are you telling your girls? You've taken some sticks up the side of the head just like I have. You've had to deal with some stuff and work out of mistakes that were made just like I have. What's the lesson?
I think that you don't ever try to be something you're not. And I actually struggle with that. And I don't think that it's anything necessarily terrible, but you're always going to constantly be trying to figure out who you are and what you're best fit at. Be okay with who you're not. Mm-hmm. And that's okay. And I think that you need to stay to who you are and make those decisions, because at the end of the day, you need to be confident in what you did and where you're at, and know that it's okay to fail, it's okay to evolve, but don't ever try to be who you aren't, because you'll never do that well, and you won't leave it in, you won't leave a good succession with it at all.
So how does that translate to you? I mean, again, we're kind of here at a tipping point in life for all of us. We're all walking this tightrope of what the world is right now.
Right. So
what does being true to yourself and what does being authentic and not being afraid to fail mean to Kelly Lippus now and then out into the future?
I think that a lot of it, I always say I should have been born Catholic, because I have this guilty conscience all the time. I feel
Well, this is your confessional. Let's get it over.
I feel like I always owe somebody something, or that I'm indebted to somebody. And I'm okay now to say I'm not. As long as I am respectful and I am good on my word, I don't owe people shit. I don't. I owe them who I am. I owe them what I can give them, and with boundaries. And that's okay. And I think that it really is. That has been my struggle for a very long time. And so when I look at where I'm going forward, I never got into this role at the chamber ever saying I was going to be here for 16 years. I will not. I don't feel anybody, it's my own personal thought, anybody should be ahead of a civic organization for anything longer than 5 to 7 years.
So term limits.
100% term limits. Because at the end of the day, you have to have that growth and you have to have that change. You have to have that momentum moving forward. And at some point, we are human and we all are self-serving. We all end up that way, even if we don't want to be.
Right.
And when you're head of an organization, you should always you're serving others. And it's not about you. It's not about your gain. And I want that time and that turn to be able to have my own company, whatever that is, be able to make my own decisions, be able to not have to ask permission for things. Because I feel that I'm very confident and capable to do that, and nobody's going to tell me different. And so it's being completely true to yourself, and it's making sure that you're respectful, but you don't owe people anything. You don't. You owe them your word, and you owe them, whatever you promised that you were going to do, and you owe them to show up every single day, because that's what you're choosing to do right now. But you don't have to stay where you don't feel you belong just because somebody says you do.
Right. So, again, we look at any of your mistakes, my mistakes. Would you go back and do them over?
No, I think that I wouldn't have missed out on opportunities because I was scared. 100%. There are so many things, and another, I absolutely would not have missed out on opportunities. I would have taken more risks, because it always is okay. Life will continue to go on. You lose money, that's terrible. Don't get me wrong, because believe me, I'm not anywhere financially I want to be, but I will be one day.
Sure.
100% will, and I will get there. But it's okay to take some risk. That's the only way you grow. But yeah, I can look back and I don't regret on any of the decisions I made but I regret on the missed opportunities because I felt like I owed somebody something.
Yep.
So I didn't necessarily speak what I wanted out of it, because I'm like, oh no, like I can be real ballsy. I really can. I can be very firm and I can be very direct and, that's why I think I do always navigate back to healthcare because that's so comfortable. But that's not my end game. When I look at myself, I'm not working for somebody. I'm not working for a corporation and being told what to do all the time. No, because I know that I can take care of employees well. I know I can take care of customers well. I can do that, so I can do that on my own.
Right. Now, I know one thing, as a parent, which obviously we both are, I kind of wonder if we haven't kind of created our own problem.
Yeah.
Meaning that, all of us, if you look back at our parents and our lives and stuff like that, there was nobody there to pick up the pieces when there was a mistake made of any consequence. Mm-hmm. It had to be done by myself.
I had to figure it out.
But then, you become a victim of your own success and the fact that you can blunt some of those bad things for your kids. Mm-hmm. You can take away some of the hard, you can jump them forward and skip some steps
right,
to get them to where they want to go. But you got to start questioning, maybe those skips shouldn't have happened.
Right.
Because that's what gives you the strength, the courage to know that, I just went apeshit bad on that one. I wrecked it. But look, that was all that happened to me. That was it.
That was it. Like
I thought my life was going to be over.
Thank you. And and like the kids right now, I think that they are in...
Not your kids. You're not talking about your kids. We're going to clarify. The kids. Okay, go ahead.
The kids. All the kids. No, really. Like, all of them. Maybe not Isaac, who I hope one day is my son-in-law. But, no, like, I don't want to feel bad for them, but God, like, how shitty of a year that they, I see such different in my kids. Like, and my kids are, they're pretty outgoing. They can talk to anybody. You know what I mean? Like they really are. But just their mood and their change because of you can't go to school. And, my one that's like a straight A and, complete go-getter and type A, the one I butt heads with the most because we're a lot alike, she quit her sport that she did all the time. And, Jade sleeps all the time. She does because what do they have to do?
Right.
What do they need?
Doesn't know how to cope right now. That's a coping mechanism.
No, and how do we expect them to?
Right.
How do we expect them to?
Yeah, we won't find out. It's going to be years. We're going to see some results right away. But it's going to be a while. We're going to be like, oh, crap.
Right. But if some of the predictions are right, that it will turn into, we might have a little bit of more socialism nature, you've created a great generation to be able to do that with.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So, again, we go back to the tinfoil hat, running around naked with our tinfoil hat on the yard. That philosophy played the long game. Mm-hmm. They started educating our kids at age 5. Mm-hmm. And for 35, 40 years, they religiously, incrementally, little bits all the way through. And now those are the people that are, kids of millionaires, spoiled rotten, grew up in privilege, that are out protesting that, white privilege and that they've been screwed somehow in America.
Right.
That's the generation that is now in charge of companies like Facebook, companies like, Twitter.
They can manipulate anything to be able to say this is right, and I have a platform to be able to psychologically make you believe that that I'm right.
Yep.
And it is. It's
going to get crazy. Well, I want to, we've been here long enough. I have taken a ton of your time, but I do want to acknowledge you for a few things because I appreciate you so much taking the time to be here. I think something that's very cool about you is when you come into a room, you bring a whole other energy level to it. You can feel it. Aww. And there's just something that changes in a group of people, even at a silly chamber function or a silly chamber meeting. Something that normally would be considered bland, blah, it just you bring noise, you bring volume, you bring life to it. And then secondly is your ability to put people together and not be afraid to network and to refer people and to talk to people. I think you've planted seeds the last few years that even though, there might have been some butt kicking that's happened the last few years at the chamber, you still have planted seeds that you have no idea what's going to grow yet in your future. And it's just so fun to be part of it. And as always, anything that I have available to you, if you need it in your future, personally or professionally, we would be glad to help out with that.
Back at you.
So if anybody needs to get in touch with Kelly, we're going to put some contact information in the description of the video. And the chamber is always here to help, whether you don't have a business yet and you want to start one, or if you're a community member that has no freaking idea why people are even talking about this, or they think that they can go see Light Up Norwalk and that just magically happens.
Or they're really upset about the Dora.
Oh, no. Okay, let's get the podcast. We're over. 3, 2, 1, we're done. Not going there.
All day.
Thank you so much.